What's up, millennials? So in Monday's video, we looked at the first part of the investor's presentation of ChargePoint. We talked about the market that ChargePoint is operating in, and we also looked at their business model. Today we're going to take a look at ChargePoint's competitiveness and also at their proven revenue growth so far. But before we do so, I do have a question for you, because I really want to make more videos about ChargePoint and I want to go deep in the analysis of ChargePoint. So the question is, what would you like to hear more about with regards to ChargePoint? Let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can implement that information in my future videos about this company. Alright, so let's first take a look at the part of the investor's presentation they call moats. Which basically is, well, why they're such a good company compared to their competition. And as we can see over here, their portfolio serves many geographies and also many segments. So first of all, we have North America over here, where they have a proven model. They're already the leader over there. And they have expected gross margin in the 40s, so 40% or more. I do actually wonder what the net margin would be because, well, I can imagine that because of their subscription models, the net margin will also be pretty good, right? But maybe we'll find out more about that in one of the next videos about ChargePoint. And then with regards to their business in Europe, well, we already looked at this in Monday's video, right? But there's a large addressable market here in Europe. And ChargePoint expects that their billings growth is going to be bigger than in North America as well, as they capture more share, as they become more present in Europe, right? Which is not that weird if you take into account that Europe has a higher population than North America, of course. I do wonder when this is going to happen though, but well, the good thing about that question isn't that I'm asking if it's going to happen, right? Because I'm asking when it's going to happen, because I personally believe that it's only a matter of time, to be honest. And then when we scroll down to their hardware portfolio, which is over here, we can see that they have solutions for every use case, all vehicle types and brands. I really like this because they've kind of got their own niche. They've got charging stations for electric vehicles. But within that niche, they are going very wide. They provide charging stations for all vehicle types and all brands. So I really like that. And what I also like about this is that they have a modular architecture, as they say over here. A modular, scalable, secure architecture designed for serviceability. Well, I especially like the modular part because, well, I'm not a hardware expert or anything, but modular designs for me always seem to be the most efficient ones, right? Because if a module doesn't work anymore, what you can do is simply replace that module with a new one without having to replace the entire hardware. And if we then take a look at the software enables, we can also see some few interesting things as well. The charging stations can control who can use the stations and when. That seems pretty useful to me. We can also read that there are multiple vehicles that can share the power of these charging stations. That's pretty awesome as well, if you ask me, because I believe right now there is mainly room for 2 vehicles though, if you look at these images on the left-hand side. And I wonder if they are actually able to upgrade that to 4 vehicles so that they would need less hardware. But I think that 4 would probably be more or less the maximum if I need to guess. But yeah, we'll see how that is going to go in the future, of course. And just a side note, I also looked at some YouTube videos to see how it works exactly, how these charging stations work, because here in the Netherlands, we don't really have many of these charging stations, so I can't really go to one and see how they actually work. But as far as I have seen, you can simply use your smartphone, for example, to get access to the ChargePoint stations. And you can also receive notifications when the car is done charging, so that you can park your car somewhere else so that other people can use the charging stations. And while I was watching these YouTube videos, I was like wouldn't it be awesome if we had autonomous cars that could simply drive to these charging stations themselves and park somewhere else themselves as well if they were done charging, so that people wouldn't need to do anything anymore? I'm pretty sure that we're going to see stuff like that in the future as well, right? Okay, let's now go back to our slides, because there are some more interesting things, of course. Over here we can see, for example, that there are thousands of brands that already choose ChargePoint. And we can see some big companies over here that use ChargePoint. Companies like 3M, we can see Facebook over here, we can see Microsoft, Netflix, Disney, IKEA even, FedEx, Uber, and Waymo. These are pretty big companies, of course, that are using ChargePoint already. Okay, so that's it for their competitiveness, but now let's take a look at their growth, okay? And especially we're going to take a look at their proven expansion, their proven growth. So let's just go to the next slide, which is over here. And I'll be honest with you here, because there are two things that are a little bit weird or unclear to me. First of all, Fortune 50 is mentioned twice here, because we have, well, three parts over here. We've got the Fortune 50 company annual spend, and then again, Fortune 50 company annual spend, and then the Fortune 500 company annual spend. So this might be a typo or something like that. The second option might actually be the Fortune 100 or something. And the second thing that seems a little bit weird to me is this cumulative spend. It seems like a little bit random to me, to be honest. And it also looks like they've simply used this number to make it all seem very awesome. Because according to what it says on the bottom of this page, the cumulative spend expansion rates are calculated by dividing cumulative billings from the fiscal year 2017 until the fiscal year of 2020, and then divide those by the fiscal year 2017 billings. So yeah, these numbers seem a little bit random to me, because I think what they've done, and let's just pull up a calculator for a second. I believe what they have done is simply add up these four numbers, 1.5 million, 1.8, 2.3, and 3.1. Let's do that ourselves as well. So the 1.5, 1.8, 2.3, and 3.1. There we go, 8.7 in total. And then they divide it by the billings of the first year, in this case 2017, which was 1.5, right? So then we have a cumulative spend of 5.8, which probably is pretty much the same as the 5.7 over here. But again, this number seems a little bit arbitrary to me and not very relevant. So what I was interested in was the year-over-year growth that we can see from these years, from 2017 until 2020. So what I did was pretty much make a quick Excel calculation. I've put in these numbers over here. So 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Here I've put the annual spend per year. So 1.5 million in the first place, then 1.8 in the next year, 2.3 in the next year, and 3.1 in last year, so 2020. And then I've calculated the year-over-year growth, right? So basically what we can see is that in 2018, for the Fortune 50 company annual spend, if this is not a typo, the year-over-year growth was 20% from 2017 until 2018. And then the year-over-year growth was 27.8% the year after that, and then 34.8%. If we then take a look at the second part, which is, well, maybe the Fortune 100 company annual spend, we can see a year-over-year growth of 550%, which is due to the fact that it was very low in 2017. Then a 23.1% year-over-year growth in 2019, and then 112.5% in this last year. And then if we take a look at the last category, which was the Fortune 500 company annual spend, we can see a 342.4 year-over-year growth in 2018 compared to 2017. And then the year after it went down 26%. And then this fiscal year we had a nice growth of 368.5% year over year. So I hope I did a good job here of, pretty much representing these numbers in slightly a different way. I think these numbers are a little bit more significant than the 5.7x cumulative spend and the 27.8x cumulative spend as well. So yeah, this might be interesting to you as well. Okay, then let's take a look at what their revenue stream looks like exactly. For that, we need to go to the next slide. And well, in the previous video, we already have said that they basically have 3 revenue streams. They have hardware, recurring software subscriptions, but also recurring assurance subscriptions as well, right? So in this image, we can see the lifetime of one ChargePoint station, which is about 7 years. And we can also see that the hardware part, so this dark blue part, which is basically the upfront revenue, consists of about 50% of the entire revenue, and the rest of it is recurring revenue. So 36% we have in software revenue and 13% in assurance revenue. And something else that's important to take into account as well is that about 60% of the entire revenue of one of these ChargePoint stations actually comes in the very first year of the installation of their charging stations, which is mainly hardware, as we can see over here, but there is also some recurring revenue, of course, as well, right? Some software revenue and assurance revenue as well. All right, so that's it for their proven growth so far, right? In one of my future videos, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the possible future growth of this company. And I'm also going to make a separate video about the team that is behind ChargePoint. So many things to look at still. Now, I won't go into technical analysis in this video. I'm actually recording this video on Tuesday and we'll release it tomorrow on Wednesday. But I think I actually will make a video about the technical analysis of ChargePoint, or rather Switchback Energy Acquisition Corp, right? And I'm actually going to release that today as well on Tuesday. So if you're watching this, there's likely already a video about technical analysis of Switchback Energy that was published yesterday. Okay, that sounds super weird, but I hope that you do know what I mean. That will be it for today. So don't forget to tell me what you would like to see about ChargePoint in the future videos. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching, and until next time.